What's up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 320 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. This is the Hot Tags edition of the week, where I, your host, Tony Mango, will be breaking down some of the current events, rumors, gossip, news, and anything else that I thought was particularly interesting over the past couple of days in the world of professional wrestling and sports entertainment. Before we get into it, I just want to remind everybody to drop your comments below and tell me what you thought of these topics as we're going along. And we might as well just start at the top here in most chronological order. Matt Hardy has apparently obtained the rights to the broken Matt Hardy character. This has been going on for many months, and WWE eventually just said, fuck it, we're going to call him Woken Matt Hardy. And very soon after that, realistically, they just gave up and they gave him the rights to the broken character. So this means a couple different things. Number one, it means that WWE doesn't have to worry anymore about any kind of potential lawsuits where anybody would say, well, the Woken character is too much like the same as the Woken character and not different enough to differentiate between the two. It also means that they can do the broken character and they don't have to continue with the Woken thing anymore. And it also means that when WWE eventually decides that they don't want to do this, and when Matt Hardy leaves WWE, whether it be through kind of retirement or on his own free will or he gets fired or something like that, he can continue to do the broken Matt Hardy character outside of WWE because he owns the rights to that. WWE will own the rights to Woken Matt Hardy. That is not the Matt Hardy that everybody wants. Everybody wants the broken one. I personally don't really see that much of a difference because I never really followed the broken Matt Hardy thing, but it doesn't seem like people are so into the Woken one, and I don't think that if they changed the W to BR that it would really make that much of a difference, because I think that this is one of those things where we didn't get the Bullet Club in WWE, we got the Balor Club. We didn't get the NWO in WWE, we got a shitty version of the NWO. I think it's one of those things where WWE wants to do their own spin on it, and their spin on it isn't what people were expecting. So the Woken Matt Hardy character is what it is, and the broken Matt Hardy character would be exactly the same thing. Unless they're willing to make him have the total free will that he had before, it's not going to be the same. So if you are expecting that this is going to be the big game changer, that's not going to be the case. Still, it's good. You know, there's nothing bad about this whatsoever. So yay, thumbs up. We got to talk about a little bit of other people leaving the company and doing some other things like that. If we're going to piggyback off of that, let's talk about Austin Aries. He has won both the Impact Wrestling Championship and the Grand Championship, which apparently went from Matt Sydal to Justin Matthews. I was going to call him Josh Matthews. Oh, that's kind of weird. I think I was going to call him Justin Roberts a little bit there. And then it's on Austin Aries, and they've even actually said about how they don't want to have this championship anymore, which is really kind of confusing to me, because the Grand Championship not only has the best name out of any kind of Intercontinental sort of championship, but it also has a great design to it. And if they get rid of the round idea, totally up for that. That sounds stupid. But if they keep the championship, just make it your mid-card title. They've gone through this weird transition with these Intercontinental equivalents, where they've had the Global Championship and the Legends Championship and the TV title and the whatever the fuck title. Grand Championship is the classiest sounding Intercontinental equivalent title for mid-carders you could possibly ask for. Have the Impact Wrestling title, have the Grand title, have the X Division title, the Women's title, Tag Team title, and that's it. That would be the best way for them to go. I don't know where that's going to go, but now they're doing this whole thing where Austin Aries wins all the championships, and I guess that he's happy to be back in Impact. I know that they are definitely going to be happy to have him, because they need people like this, because on top of that, a couple more people have left Impact. We had a little bit of discussion about this before, but the idea that Ethan Carter III, Bobby Lashley, and Chelsea Green, or Laurel Van Ness, whatever you want to call her, that they were going to be leaving Impact Wrestling soon, and now with this latest set of tapings, it seems as though that is official. Chelsea Green is not necessarily in the same capacity as Lashley and EC3, where those two have had a lot more discussion on the dirt sheets recently of them potentially coming into WWE. Bobby Lashley is somebody that I am not really necessarily as sold on as EC3. This is where I think things are going to turn out. I think, and I don't have any kind of inside scoop, so of course, just, take this with a grain of salt. I'm expecting to see EC3 on NXT television by, I guess, either during, before, or after, which is, that's going to sound like bullshit. All right. Either the tapings before New Orleans, at New Orleans, or the immediate tapings right after New Orleans. That's a better way to, I guess if I would have said it either before or after or during, then it could be 5 years from now. It could be like, see, I said after, we're not going to do that game. No, I think that we're going to see him in NXT very, very soon, because I think that he is going to be brought in as a potential replacement for Drew McIntyre. McIntyre, whenever he comes back from an injury, I think he's going straight to the main roster. He might have a little bit of a stint in NXT just to have like one match or something like that, but I doubt it. I think that he's going straight to Raw or SmackDown. Which one, totally, up in the air. Who knows what that's going to be like, because the landscape can change a whole bunch in the next few months. EC3, though, I think that they are going to look at this as that he's better suited to go into NXT than the main roster. And if he does that, he could be a big star, he could be a big babyface, big heel, whatever they want to do with him. And I do think that he's going to come back as Derek Bateman, because Ethan Carter III doesn't really necessarily make any sense, because who's Dixie Carter in the realm of the WWE Universe? She's nobody. She's never been in the WWE Universe. All she's done has been one quick interview thing as a passage for the Kurt Angle interview. That's not something to build around. Ethan Carter III as a name sounds fine if they could obtain the rights to that, and that could work or something like that. Or they could even go with like Ethan Bateman or something like that. But I'm thinking they're just going to go Derek Bateman, and they're just going to make it easy like that. Or they could just give him a different name. He could go with a completely different thing too. Who knows? Cool guy, though. Met him one time, and I have always been a big fan of him since he first popped up in the original NXT. I thought that he was somebody that could have gone a long, long way. I really liked his pairing with Daniel Bryan. I want to see this dude hold a world title, and I want it to be not just an NXT championship. I want him to hold the WWE championship or the Universal championship for sure. Definitely want to see him hold that Intercontinental title at some point too, but let's take it one step at a time. Bobby Lashley, I don't know. He is the type of guy that I can see value for, but I also think that he is overrated. And I can see that if he does come to WWE, he's going to go straight to the main roster. I mean, he's going to be booked as one of those part-time type of guys. He comes in, they push him straight to that upper mid-card main event kind of scenario. Maybe they do something between him and Brock Lesnar. That could be kind of interesting. Maybe they do something between him and Roman Reigns, or he goes through the list of, the AJ Styleses and the John Cenas and the, top guys like that. And maybe that has some value to it, as long as he doesn't talk and be the same way that he used to be when he used to speak. But Chelsea Green, I don't know. I mean, she has had her little stints in WWE before. She was on Tough Enough, and she was the background character in a Daniel Bryan thing, and they could bring her in. If they do bring her in, I think she's going to NXT, and they are potentially going to be filling in some spots when it comes to that soon. I'll get to that in a second, but I don't think she necessarily is going to come to WWE. I think that it wouldn't be all that shocking for her to go to Ring of Honor. So stay tuned for that. I don't know. As far as filling in some spots with NXT, it seems as though it's not 100% official as far as WWE announcing it themselves, but Squared Circle Sirens and some other different people have talked about it. Candice LeRae, the wife of Johnny Gargano, has supposedly signed with WWE. It took a little while. I kind of wanted her to sign like right after the Mae Young Classic and stuff, but that is a great thing. She is very talented. She's got pretty much all the tools that I would expect that they would be looking for. And with her being in there and Gargano being in there, and, benefiting the women's division and just making things a little bit easier and stuff, great. That is fantastic. I love that idea. I hope that goes through perfectly fine, and I'm looking forward to seeing her in NXT. Actually, I need to back up a little bit here. Or I guess I could just tie it all together. We're talking about women's wrestling right now, so let's talk about that. We are going to know more about this information in a week or two, even a week. We are going to find out some more of the competitors for the Women's Royal Rumble. I'm assuming on the Raw 25th anniversary special. And two of those people that I'm expecting to hear actual announcements of that they are competing in there are Molly Holly and Michelle McCool. The reason why, first off, it makes sense. I mean, we have more spots, so we need to fill them in with not just NXT people. We need to bring in people from, legends and stuff like that. But also, according to the dirt sheets, according to the rumor mill, Molly Holly and Michelle McCool have both been contacted specifically about returning for the Royal Rumble. I also expect the Bella Twins. I think that Nikki Bella is a guarantee. I don't know about Brie Bella, but they're not legends at this point. They're still just sort of like same old roster members, kind of. Molly Holly and Michelle McCool, different story. They have both retired in the ring, and coming back would be something a little bit special. Molly Holly, according to the reports, has already agreed to it, and Michelle McCool hasn't necessarily agreed to it, but has kind of agreed to the idea of thinking about it, sort of. But she has been talking a lot about how she wants to step in the ring with Charlotte, and even though Charlotte isn't in this, you got to assume that this is going to open up some doors. Also, depends on how many people they want to bring in and how many spots that they're able to fill with the current roster members. Because if we have, say, 16 people on the main roster or 19 people on the main roster, kind of depends on the way that they book certain things, then there's a couple more spots here and there. We do know that McCool and some other people, Terry Runnels, Kelly, et cetera, are going to be at the 25th anniversary special of Raw. So Raw 25 is a good chance for us to hear a lot of these people come out and say, this is great for the women's revolution and all that, and we want to get our hands dirty, so we are going to be joining the Royal Rumble as well. I would personally prefer not for that to be the case. I'd actually rather them just pop up and people to flip out when their music hits, because to me, part of the fun of the Royal Rumble is when you just hear that 5, 4, 3, and the crowd is completely off the counter because they can never count at the same rate. 2, 1, and then you just hear like, you're not enough for me, whoa, whoa. And you're like, oh shit, Michelle McCool's there. Or possibly Layla, because they use the same song, that kind of a thing. I don't remember how Molly Holly's theme went. Did she just use Hardcore Hollies? Was that it? Huh. I don't know. But they, according to that rumor mill, have been contacted. So they are two of the names that I could definitely see filling in some of those spots. One person, unfortunately, that is not going to be able to, and this is one of the big stories that we've got going on for this week, is Paige. She has been checked out, and the term that has been floating around is medically disqualified from in-ring competition. She is unlikely to ever wrestle again in any capacity, not just for WWE, but for anywhere. She's kind of in the same situation as Edge, where they told her, look, you are just too beaten up, and it's not safe, and if you do, you are threatening your life, and there is a chance that you could be severely injured, even more than you currently are, possibly to the point of death. So she is not going to wrestle anymore. And I had thought that they were going to address this on Monday Night Raw tonight, but they didn't. They acted like there was nothing wrong whatsoever. Paige came out with the two other members of Absolution, didn't say a word, didn't do anything, didn't indicate that anything was wrong, which is weird. I don't think that this is a work. I know some people are going to say that, and some people are going to go, I don't buy it, and, until she actually disappears, whatever, maybe it's just a work, and she's going to win the Royal Rumble. I don't think that's the case. They have said that she has been disqualified from the Royal Rumble. They just haven't said that she has to retire. And I think the reason why they don't want to do that necessarily is because I don't think that they want such a downer to happen. If Paige comes out here and she says, I have to retire, I'm no longer medically cleared to compete in the ring, and I'm probably never going to be able to step in the ring ever again, she becomes a babyface. And if she does that, where do they go with Absolution? Because Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, they are kind of a tag team, and they were kind of a tag team before Paige even came along. But what do they do on their own? is kind of one of those tricky situations. Do you go with what the company needs better, or do you go with what the individual needs better? Personally, I have my issues with Paige. Well, and, you know, we've talked about this before, but how I think that she is very immature in certain ways and all that other kind of stuff. Obviously, it's disappointing to hear that she can't compete anymore, because that's not only her dream, but it's also something that her fans are going to be missing a lot. And there is value to Paige. So even I, who am not a big fan of her anymore, think that it would be better if obviously she could still compete. But I kind of think no matter what, even though I have that kind of feeling, you go with what the more sympathetic thing is to do. You give her the chance to go out and you have her talk on the microphone. She is probably in such an emotionally unstable scenario right now, being told that her dream is over. And she's only like 26 or something like that. I'm fucking 30. I understand that if I was told that something that I wanted to do is no longer ever going to happen again, that I would be horribly upset. She deserves to have that kind of a send-off, unless she doesn't want it. There is a possibility that she does not want to do that. Maybe out of trying to avoid getting a pity party. Maybe because she doesn't want to admit that that's the truth. And if she does that, then that seals the deal, puts a nail in the coffin, and then she's done. Or maybe she wants to keep up a little bit of kayfabe, and maybe she just wants to be a heel manager. It's an odd situation, and we can't really say what they should or shouldn't do with any kind of clarity, because it depends on what WWE wants, what Paige wants, and, you know, there's weird intricacies and variables that we can't factor in. But it does seem like that's the case. It does seem like Paige is no longer going to be wrestling ever again, and that sucks. So hopefully she is in the right state of mind, if not right now, very soon, that she can bounce back from this and figure out a new career trajectory that can take her into some other kind of happiness. I don't want to see some kind of report that she, you know, failed some wellness policy violation because now she's into drug use or something. That would just be heartbreaking. And I really don't want to see that kind of stuff happen, because it doesn't serve any purpose. It just masks you from your problems. And we can get into a whole big thing about drug use and how it's stupid to do drugs, and that it's pathetic in certain ways, and that it's sympathetic in certain ways, and that it's pitiful, and that, you know, we can do a whole big discussion like that. But the bottom line is, it doesn't solve any issues. So if I were Paige, I would be trying to figure out the best way to accept the unfortunate scenario and have my mourning period the most emotionally functional way possible, which is different for every single person, and try to figure out a way to get something positive going. You know, maybe she wants to be a trainer, maybe she wants to be a manager, maybe she wants to do something else, maybe she wants to focus on that clothing line. Maybe that's the best thing for her. If she doesn't compete in this Royal Rumble, it's not going to be the end of the world. It's not going to be the end of the world if she never competes again. WWE will move on. The fans will move on. Same as what we did with everybody else. But it sucks for Paige. That's the one who's going to get hit hardest, and that's the one that needs to figure out how the best way to go about things for herself is. So kudos for Paige's good contributions. Hopefully she can spin this around in a good way, and yeah, it sucks. Positive side of things, David Otunga has been cleared of domestic abuse charges for that thing that had happened a little while ago where he split with Jennifer Hudson, and she kind of tried to get the whole idea going that maybe he was abusive. Now it seems like it really was a scenario where she was trying to get leverage, and it was like, maybe if I act like he was abusive, and since he was a former wrestler, people will be sympathetic to me, and they will give me full custody and stuff. You play those games and you get found out, well, then you get the charges thrown away. I really hope that he wasn't actually abusive in any way, because if that's the case, then he should be punished, but all signs point to that not being the case, and if you are innocent, it is fantastic that you get your name cleared. So good job, David Otunga, on pulling that one out. That is another good thing. Another positive thing to talk about here is that Goldberg has been announced as the first inductee in the 2018 class of the WWE Hall of Fame. He is obviously going to be the headliner of this class, which makes sense. He is somebody who is a legend. He was, the guy in WCW. He just main evented WrestleMania last year with the Universal Championship. He didn't technically main event, but you know what I mean. And, there's no reason to say that he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame at all. So there's no discussion about, is this right or wrong? It's just a thumbs up. It's just the way that it is. It's kind of like if you were to say that the Hall of Fame is going to be headlined by Triple H down the line. Well, no shit, Goldberg is a good choice. He is fresh in our minds. He just did his stint last year, and the fans that were not as familiar with him from his old WCW time are familiar with him now based off of what he just did. The fans that are familiar with him, they're not going to forget about that anyway. So it's a good time to do it. And he's a good headliner. So I'm totally cool with this. We've heard some rumblings about some other people, and I didn't really report about them because I figured we hear rumblings every year and they always turn out to be bullshit. Bam Bam Bigelow is one of them, and I've heard his name every single year for God knows how many years at this point. So I always just assume that there's some truth and there's some BS. The Dudley Boys is another one that's rumored. I don't know if I would necessarily consider them a lock either. Every year there's always the discussion of Owen Hart, British Bulldog, Vader. There's always the who should we bring in that would mend fences, and should Eric Bischoff go in, and should Vince McMahon go in? And, we can have this discussion a million times, but Goldberg is the only one that's guaranteed right now, and we probably are not going to hear too many other people too soon, because they usually like to put one name out there, and then they wait until at least a little bit after the Royal Rumble before they start, naming some of the other ones. I'm assuming around mid-February is when we're going to start hearing the rest of them. And they'll start doing one a week and, getting around to it like that. But yeah, Goldberg going in, I like it. Let's talk about our final thing here to talk about here, though, and then we'll kind of round this out. The latest special on the WWE Network was celebrating 25 years of Raw, which was a countdown of what apparently people in the social media atmosphere had voted on as the top 25 moments of Monday Night Raw's history. And I can disagree or agree with certain things on the list. I'm not going to really, I don't have the list in front of me. I didn't write them down. Some great moments, some that I skipped over because I've seen them so many goddamn times. Like, how many times do I need to rewatch that Vince McMahon in the hospital segment? I know it like damn near by heart at this point, and I just didn't need to rewatch it and stuff like that. Yeah, some good choices though. I don't necessarily agree with the top one. There's a few that I think that they missed out on, but this is a subjective thing, and it's not going to be like the list of the best talkers of all time, and you put down what the fuck is that guy name again? Bam Neely or something, where you're just definitively wrong. It's like, if a bunch of people voted for these as their top moments, then by all means, go ahead. I loved part of this, and I hated part of it. Let's just talk about the thing that I loved. The warehouse segments were really funny. They weren't like, my gut is busting from laughing so much kind of funny, but Sean Mooney popping up, hey, I like Sean Mooney, why not? I liked how they had the costumed people all sitting together playing cards, the Swagger Soaring Eagle, the Gobbledygooker, the Unicorn, and the Bunny. I liked the Conquistadors popping up, and they did these little references to things here and there, and it just kind of hit me with a little bit of nostalgia. So I loved the warehouse little segments, but holy shit, that green screen background for the main presentation of this with Corey Graves and Peter Rosenberg was fucking horrible. I mean, just straight terrible. That was some 90s Nick Arcade fake looking shit. And that was in the 90s. So if they had just about the same amount of technical specialties for something in 2018 as they did in 92, that's not good, man. Whoever worked on that, you need to figure out something better to do. I mean, I'm not somebody who can be like, oh, I can whip up something in Photoshop, because I fucking can't, but that's my job to do that kind of stuff necessarily. That was really bad, and I usually give you guys a little see it or skip it type of thing. I think that you should skip this for the most part. If you want to check out the warehouse segments, check that out. The rest of the parts that we're breaking down, actually what they did for like the list itself, we're probably going to see most of that on Raw next week. So if you don't want to relive the same moments over and over again, you can skip this. But man, if you get a chance to, check out that green screen background and just look at the fake set that's there. Because it's one thing to have the green screen and to do like what Tosh.0 would have. Is that show still on? I haven't seen that in freaking years. Where you can tell that it's a fake thing, but it's not supposed to look like a real set. This was supposed to look like it had like a railing and like metal platforms and stuff, and oh man, it was just bad. So outside of that, I mean, it was fine. It was a little bit of a waste of time sort of for me, but what the hell, they've had worse, right? So those are the hot tags for this week, everybody. Again, drop your comments below and tell me what you thought about all these in whatever capacity that you have. We are going to be doing a Smark announce table for the main event for this week. The 1988 Royal Rumble, the first Royal Rumble 30 years ago. And it's time for us to go back and check it out again. So the audio commentary track for that is going to be recorded sometime possibly on Wednesday, maybe Thursday or Friday, depending on if my schedule gets in the way. I don't know yet. You'll see it posted up throughout the week at some point, though. And if you want to be aware of when that comes up, the best way to do that is to subscribe on YouTube and ring the bell. Check that off for notifications, because then you will get a notification in your email about when that is posted. Or you could also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. And you can also subscribe to the RSS feed on SmarkOutMoment.com, because I try to post everything all at the same time, and it'll all sync up pretty nicely for you. And if you are aware of the rest of the schedule for this month, we've got following on that, episode 321. I said that kind of weird there. It's kind of like swallowing air. Episode 321 is going to be main evented by a lot of pay-per-view point talk, because we are going to be doing our predictions for NXT TakeOver Philadelphia and the Royal Rumble predictions. And then following that, we're going to do the NXT TakeOver Philadelphia post-show and then the Royal Rumble post-show. And I'm going to be so sick and tired of doing a whole bunch of wrestling talk and wrestling coverage because of all the articles and all the pay-per-views and all the podcasts and all the other kind of stuff like that. But the following week after that is going to be the last week in January, so we are going to be doing the mailbag for January. That's episode 322. So start thinking of some questions you want to submit, and keep in mind that since this is going to be after the Royal Rumble, anything that you submit ahead of time that is going to deal with the Royal Rumble, you got to think kind of what could possibly happen then, and, you know, that kind of a thing. If you ask a question of, like, who do you think is going to win at the Royal Rumble, it's already going to pass by, and then I'm not going to even bother to put it on the podcast and stuff. But that is going to be coming up on 322. After that is like the start of February stuff, and there's actually a week where I'm not too sure what I'm going to do yet. So, yeah. Episode 323 is kind of up in the air a little bit. I might be doing a Sporkle quiz. Following that, we're probably going to do the Call the Spot for the Elimination Chamber participants, because we always do that. Then we're going to start to get into Elimination Chamber predictions, the mailbag, the Fastlane predictions. Then we're going to get into the WrestleMania season. It's going to be all crazy like that. But that is what you got to look forward to over the next couple of weeks or so. I will see you when I see you. This has been another Smark Out moment, and I'm being counted out.